Welcome back. This is chapter 5. Should Wizard Hit Mommy? Written by John Updike. And now I'm going to explain page number 50th and 51st. So here we go. The wizard! The wizard! Joe shouted and sat right up. And a little golden book spilled from the bed. Now, Joe, Dad is telling the story. Do you want to tell Daddy the story? So here this line say, upon this, Joe shouted the wizard, that is, suggesting he should go to the wizard now, and with these words sat up instantly as things were getting interesting. At that very moment, a little golden book, possibly the title of the book, Little Golden Book, fell off the bed. And that was probably a storybook or a comic she had been reading earlier, and so father reacted sharply, saying Daddy was telling the story, and if she was interested to take father's role. Next part. No, you me. Or then lie down and be sleepy. Her head relapsed onto the pillow and she said, out of your head. So here this line say, Joe replied, no, you would tell me. Jack answered firmly, saying, then she should lie down and try to sleep. Putting her head down on the pillow again, she said, let that be a new and original one, out of his head, his own story. Next part. Well, the owl thought and thought. At last he said, why don't you go see the wizard? Daddy, what? Are magic spells real? So here this line say, picking it up from there, he said, the owl thought hard over the issue and at last spoke, suggesting him to go and meet the wizard. Joe interrupted there with a question coming up in her mind. She wanted to know if magic spells were real. Next part. This was a new phase, just this last month, a reality phase. When he told her spiders eat bugs, she turned to her mother and asked, do they really? And when Claire told her God was in the sky and all around them, she turned to her father and insisted with a sly yet eager smile, is he really? So here, this line say, commenting on this newly developed trait of her, the author remarked that was a reality phase, a time period when one comes to know of the realities of life, and that last month had been one for her. Whenever she learnt a new thing from father, she would confirm it from mother, and in the other case, when learnt from mother, went to father for the confirmation. Next part. They're real stories, Jack answered curtly. She had made him miss a beat in the narrative. The owl said, go through the dark woods, under the apple tree, into the swamp, over the creek. What's a creek? So here, this line say, in his short reply, Jack answered her they were real in stories. Such questions served as distraction for him. Or then the owl described the way to Wizard's place. Again, a question from her. What's a creek? A little river. Over the creek, and there will be the Wizard's house. And that's the way Roger's skunk went. And pretty soon he came to a little white house, and he rapped on the door. Jack rapped on the windowsill, and under the covers Joe's tall figure clenched in an infantile thrill. So here this line say, Jack replied, a little river. And on the other side of the river he would find Wizard's house, and Roger followed the way as was described by the wise owl. In a little time Roger reached up to a white house and knocked at the door. Then Jack, simulating the scene, knocked windowsill. This knocking caused thrill, and Joe, in childish excitement, tightened her body. Next part. And then a tiny little old man came out with a long white beard and a pointed blue hat, and said, what's this? What you want? You smell awful. The Wizard's voice was one of Jack's own favorite effects. He did it by scrunching up his face and somehow waning through his eyes, which fell for the interval rooming. He felt being an old man suited him. So here this line say, following this knocking came out a tiny little old man with a long white beard and a pointed blue hat. He said the same, you smell awful. To give proper effect to the Wizard's voice, Jack had to make spatial effect, facial as well as vocal, and his trying to feel like an old man really suited him. So this is all for now. Thank you.